Hackle fly box. Today we're going to tie the KC bug. It's a warm water pattern. KC is short for kit and caboodle. It's a conglomeration of a number of patterns that I use effectively through the region, and it's a very good crossover pattern for bluegills, crappie, and bass. It's large enough to bring the bass to the top, and it's not too large for your the larger variety of your panfish. Let's go over how we tie it. I start out with a Gamakatsu stinger hook, size 4, and 6/0 black uni thread. And we're going to start our thread, work it to the rear of the hook, don't go into the bend. And the first material we're going to tie in is about a half dozen strands, 6 to 8 strands of pearl flashabou. Tie that in the rear, wrap back, and we're going to cut them off right away about shank length. Next material we're going to tie in, move our thread to the front, is a laminated piece of olive and yellow fly foam. I believe this is 2 layers of 2mm, and they're cut to about a 1/4 inch. I do it by eye. I don't measure it. I cut it with an X-Acto knife and a straight edge. So, but I glue them together with super glue in a sheet and then cut them to width and use them for these bugs. We're going to start off by tying in at the head approximately gape length. Hook gape length. That pretty much sizes the head the proper way for the size hook. We're just going to bind it in right up close to the eye, and then with wide wraps secure it to the shank of the hook. Bring your thread back to the end of the shank, and then bring it forward and bind it down. At this point, make sure your foam stays on top, and all you're going to do is bind it down. Much like the foam buck caddis, I don't do anything over this body except for the thread to bind it down and the hackle that follows. And once you got it tied down fairly effectively, you're going to come up here to the tail, lift it up, and you're going to cut it off 2/3 the length of the flashabou. Want about 1/3 of that flashabou sticking out past the tail. The next material you're going to tie in are olive black barred centipede legs. One on either side. I double them. If I can get these to cooperate. Trying to get them even. Try and get them even as I can. I take them in a bite around the thread, bring it up in to where I want it on the side, get the first wrap, let it open, and give a few wraps in place. That gives me my one side, and then the same thing, and we'll just follow it around to the other side of the hook. If I get my hands to cooperate. Take the bite, bring it back up through, tie it in, Give a few more wraps. Make sure you're even. Security wraps, and then you're going to bring your thread to the rear. The next material you're going to tie in is a black dry fly hackle. I prepare it like I would any other dry fly hackle. Clip the butt. Tie it in dry fly fashion. Secure it well at the point of the foam. Then wrap back over it to catch the rest of that quill. Then you're going to bring your thread back forward, being certain you don't want to trap or realign your legs. So you're going to make sure you put one wrap in the middle. Then bring your thread up behind the foam. At this point we're going to palmer our hackle forward. Hardest part is negotiating the legs. You're going to give a gap. You're not going to tie it like a dry fly collar. Usually I'm able to get 3 wraps behind. Negotiating your legs. You can use pliers to get them out of the way too, or a third hand. I put one in the middle. Then you're able to sweep the front ones back, front legs back, and give 3 wraps to the front. Make sure you don't trap any of your legs, and then tie off your hackle right behind the foam. And I'll pull the legs out of the way, give a couple security wraps. If you trap any fibers at this point, I don't really worry about it. The next material you're going to tie in is about a pencil width section of, number 2 pencil width section of deer hair, natural deer hair. I don't stack this. I clip a clump, gather it up, clean it out by hand. Different hair is going to give you a different result. Some hair you're going to need to pick a lot of underfur out. This particular patch doesn't. I'm going to measure my wing to come to about, from the back of the head to about midway point into the tail. Mark that. And I'm going to clip the butt ends to about the width of the foam past my tie-in point. Place that behind the foam and tie it down in place. Don't let it spin on your hook. It'll tend to spin a little bit. I hold it in place, flare that head, give some security wraps, and let it go. Then you're going to pull that foam back, secure your thread behind the eye, and give a good whip finish. There you go. Once that's done, you're gonna trim your head. I like to trim the corners. Keep them somewhat symmetrical. And then the tail, I trim more to a point. Not a full point, but a little bit longer than the head was. I'll get the foam to cooperate. And then I take the legs a little bit shorter than you would think. I take the legs about shank length. I don't want them real long and floppy. I don't want them to tangle up. I don't want them to grab too much. I just want the buoyancy and the support. And there it is, the KC bug. This thing gets slammed pretty much everywhere I fish it. I will come underneath. You almost always get a little bit of rotation in your flare of the deer hair, so I'll trim those ones that are sticking out. Flyers around the side. This thing gets slammed by every fish I put it over. Very effective pattern for me for warm water. I think it will be for you too. Give it a try. Good luck. See you in the water.